Hello everyone and welcome back to Tarot and Torch. Today I am going to show you all of the decks that I am going to be working with this December. So happy December 1st, and I have a little some festive little decorations up just to kind of get into the holiday spirit. And we have a fresh new candle to use. This is just from Bath and Body Works. It is the winter scent, which I'm excited to try as I've never used this fragrance before, or I've never tried it. Okay, it does smell very woodsy. It smells a little bit like a spiced Christmas tree, so okay, so December is, in my opinion, it's a very magical time. It is still in that liminal space because we're about to approach a new year, and there is this feeling of just reevaluating everything from the year before. So I do work with more of a kind of a Yule perspective, but I also celebrate Christmas as well, as I have two children also that are very excited to celebrate and see Santa. So we do the whole thing with the milk and cookies and the carrot for the reindeer and all of that fun kind of celebratory thing. So to get into kind of that childlike place in my practice where I'm able to approach a season that can be very heavy at times, and as we feel the things that we have kind of built over this year, also the disappointments that we faced, also just a lot of, truths and understandings about ourselves and others around us, I try to approach it in a way that is positive and also can help me through kind of working through some of those shadows as well. So the first deck is the Winter Wait, and really this and one other deck that you'll see are the only kind of Christmas specific or Yule specific decks that I have. So I love working with this for that, to kind of remind myself that this doesn't have to be kind of a dense, difficult time period. This is supposed to be more of a lighthearted month, that we can approach this from levity and from love and from just a more lighthearted and joyous way. And I like this deck because the figures are often covered in snow, and while that does add like a nice wintry feeling, it also just gives space for those times where we may be feeling a bit kind of left out in the cold, or just kind of feeling out of place, or like the season is happening around us, because we need to hold space for the more difficult times, or the more difficult, heavy emotional experiences. Like this one's a good example. We can see the snow on top of the figure in the boat. So there is that kind of feeling of, yes, we're moving towards this beautiful and more positive time with the star Bethlehem up at the top, but there's also this, there's still things we're carrying with us, trying to thaw out within ourselves. So I love this deck, just for all of the beauty that it has, but also that somber kind of truth. And of course it is just a Rider-Waite deck, so it has all of those meanings still within it, still potent, still workable, but it has fun, and again, we need that positivity. Like this Ace of Cups, I love this Ace of Cups with the hot chocolate and the marshmallows, because we need to have that kind of moment of there's sweetness in the season if we want to see it, if we want to feel it. There's joy, there's opportunity for giving to others and receiving and having an open heart, and we don't have to kind of be so serious about it or get too swept up in the other aspects of the season, like the commercial aspects, for instance. But yeah, so that is the Winter-Waite. The next deck is the Seasons of the Witch Yule Oracle, and I really love this oracle. Not all of the Seasons of the Witch really kind of hit the mark for my practice and what I do. I do connect very well to this one, and I feel that largely has to do with the selected images and even the color. Green is a very important color to me, as it represents regeneration and healing, and I feel very connected to the green color that they use. But also because, again, the Yule aspect is so present, and I just love Yule as a concept of the return of the light, and realizing that even though it's cold and dark outside, that it's not for long. It's only temporary. So this deck also, the artwork is something I wasn't sure initially that I would love, but cards like this one really are beautiful. And it says, Silent Night. If by night the world should sleep, a sleep so deep, the silence be deafening, there would sound nothing at all nothing would sound. Now I will say some of the little poems at the bottom are a little awkward. I don't always use those if I'm being completely honest. Most of the time when I use the deck, it's for the imagery and the keyword, and then from there sometimes I'll look at the guidebook, but most of the time it's more of an intuitive read. I love the art on most of the cards, and it fits in a place between Christmas and Yule, which I feel a lot of modern either witches or pagan practitioners, or however you want to kind of view that label, a lot of us do celebrate both. This is gorgeous. The winter imagery is so refreshing and clean and almost cooling, and I love that, because it gives space to heavy emotions, to discomfort. This card in and of itself, just looking at it, brings me a sense of peace and that still, reflective, calm, beautiful kind of feeling that I'm looking for this time of year. So I love the deck for just the different perspectives that it brings. It does have a nice, well-rounded array of messages. And again, just helps to remind us that, you know, this is a time for stillness, even when things are busy, and our connections, our relationships are still a focus. But there's also this time to kind of connect with that crone energy that is so prevalent this time of year, like the Kaliak. And oh, this is cold moon, which we have a cold moon coming up in just a few days here. But this is beautiful with the wolf and this almost goddess-like figure. And it says, "Take with thy the dreariest of moments, release me for their tongue and nourish me with light." Yeah, see, I'm not sure that I resonate with that fully, but the artwork is enough to kind of take you into that space that you need to be in. Remembering, this one is gorgeous, beautiful card. The color scheme is very light, but also with the greens and the, you know, little dashes of red and other colors that kind of bring to mind the seasonal qualities of the, you know, the festivities around Christmas and Yule. Next, we have our Crow Tarot, which you may have already seen if you've looked at any of the other videos that I've done. This is becoming one of my most used decks, and it's been a slow kind of progress towards that over the years. It feels very much like a friend to me, and it's something that starts kind of feeling very prominent in September, and then from there the rest of the year. So the colors in the Crow Tarot they have that kind of interesting mix of warm and cool, kind of a primary color deck, but the images are very dreamlike, and though they're colorful, there is a almost like a watercolor kind of effect to them, and they bring me a sense of joy, but also that kind of rest for my eyes, if that makes sense. So there's space for my eyes to kind of rest and relax in between kind of what's going on in the card, but still a lot to focus on. And just on a energetic level, that this deck is very much connected to my own guides, and Corvids are a spirit messenger. They are they've always been seen as messengers carrying wisdom or important information from the other side, and I use it for that all of the time, but also just to kind of check in with my own energy. This deck is very connected to me on that kind of spiritual level, and having an animal as the figures in the deck also is, if you've not tried it and you are someone that does connect with animal energy, there is just something very potent about it once you find kind of the animal that you do connect to. So I won't spend too long on this, as I already have talked about it, and you'll hear me talk about it many, many more times. Next, we have the Spirit Keepers Tarot. This is the Vitruvian edition, and I've had this deck since it came out. Gosh, it was around 2020, I believe, somewhere around that time period. And this deck was very popular when it came out. It's a very beautiful copy, one that I feel connected to more than the other editions. And it has a kind of a woodblock art style, but I love, this is by Benebell Wen, by the way, if you are not if you have not seen her work. But the spiritual energy of this deck is so powerful, and it's not a deck that I've used actually for a while. It's been calling to me over the last month, and I've been so busy that I haven't had a lot of time to focus as much on my spiritual work and study, and that's something that I'm getting back into this month. So really diving back into this deck. There's also a workbook and a large kind of reference book, which I also have by her, that comes with this. And this deck it works with occult symbolism. There's some bits from kind of different traditions, such as Kabbalah, and working with your holy guardian angel, and angels, archangels, and other things here as well. And it's just a very it's a deck that takes you outside of the norms in terms of the spiritual realm, but also connects you to your subconscious, and it happens in a very kind of upper chakra way, where you feel that it's not happening as much in your physical body, but more energetically, which I really enjoy about it. And it also makes you think a lot more than some of the other decks, because of the way that the symbolism is portrayed. Like here we have the Tree of Life, also the sun and the moon for that polarity, as well as the young and the old, and this is the 10 of orbs. So there is a lot to kind of digest about tradition, about the legacy that you're leaving to future generations, as well as kind of your own journey spiritually from one point to another, your evolution. So beautiful deck. It has a lot to it, very deep. When you read the guidebook, it takes you to places that are kind of very much, again, outside of where you normally may go, even with decks like Thoth or the Rider-Waite-Smith. Okay, and also this is another deck that's just easy to look at with the illustrations. They're beautifully done, and the color scheme isn't overwhelming. And Christmas, if you're someone that gets overstimulated, Christmas can be a little overwhelming. And speaking of overwhelm, I also have decks for December that are just for me to kind of get through some difficult social situations and kind of empower me to stand in my boundaries. And this is one of those decks. This is the Gothic Oracle by Anne Stokes, and definitely one that I reach for a lot during the winter. And that is because of the powerful artwork, the powerful figures. It is a very high fantasy kind of energy deck. So, during this time of year, I feel that fits in very well with the magical kind of qualities of Christmas and Yule. But each message really takes you into your own kind of energetic power. It gives you these empowering messages and shows the figures kind of doing a lot of things that are supernatural a lot of the time. But there's also this, cards like this that are very subtle and really can help you through some of the darker things that you're going through and give you that space as well, no matter kind of where you are with the situations that are playing out in your life. But I do find that when I pull from this deck, it really gives me a lot of messages around empowerment and standing in my power, knowing that, I don't have to put up with people who are trying to tear me down, and that really it's because of where I am and how well that I'm doing in the first place that this is happening. So it kind of reminds me that, it's okay, take a breath, see what's really going on here, and don't be afraid of drama, because it's not about me. So, love this deck for that. It really, there's times when it has helped me through a lot. Great for journaling around as well. And very beautiful book also, with full color kind of, these illustrations. And just a very useful deck. Also surrounding the same theme of kind of this boundaries and empowerment is the Bohemian Gothic Tarot, which it does in a very different kind of way. Helps me through social situations and this time of year. So the artwork itself is very beautiful, very wintry, in that it has these dark kind of colors, very gothic, which is right in up my alley. And it has a lot of humor behind it as well. So with the expressions of the figures as well as the stories in the book, you can kind of look at things through a more sarcastic or sardonic kind of way, which is really helpful during times where you're feeling stressed out and overwhelmed and just need something to kind of shift your energy a bit. And you can take it absolutely more seriously as well, because there is a lot of that here too, in the artwork and the colors and just the vibe. But there's also just a kind of playfulness here in a lot of the messages that can help to take you out of that seriousness if you want to, and also to see the people in your life in kind of a less scary way. If you are someone that has troubling experiences in social settings around this time of year, as many of us do. So the beauty of this deck is just stunning. I love working with this around December. And look at this Nine of Swords with the castle there. It's so gothic and lovely. It's one of those decks you just want to step into and live in. And this one too is, has the sadness there, but then we see the sun rise in the background, and you know, just the beauty of it kind of reminds you that there is still beauty in the dark and the painful times. Okay. So I don't know if I've shown the backs of this, but look at those backs. I love that with the bats. Such a nice, different design. Okay. Next we have the Golden Art Nuevo Tarot. I know I'm saying that wrong. Please don't make fun of me. This tarot is one that I've had for a long time also. And I love bringing it out during the December months. I often use it for big readings, like year ahead readings, because it has such a grand kind of energy with the gold, and it feels very Jupiterian to me, which you know, Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, which Christmas happens around that time, or leading up to Christmas anyway. So during the month of December we have all this, you know, Jupiter energy, and it's just such a kind of a grand magical feeling deck because of that. And I just love all the gilding. It's not for every day, certainly, but that's why I tend to use it for these kind of year ahead or larger kind of readings for that purpose. So even this Eight of Wands is so beautiful. I love that. The Magician. This is another one that really, you know, focuses on kind of the people in it, the expressions, and the clothing and the movement of the people are very significant. And so again, it just brings to mind all the parties and the holiday cheer and all of that. And lastly, I have the Thoth, which again is another deck that I talk about quite a lot. This is the large version, which I really like because I use them for path working sometimes. But the Thoth really, you know, at this point it probably needs no introduction whatsoever. I really love this deck. Trying to show some cards that I have not shown you. It's very bright and colorful, which there's not a ton of decks that I use on a regular basis that are so colorful, so I feel that in a way that this is the one that I reach for kind of when I want that massive amount of color impact. But it's because it has such a meaning for those colors. It really adds to the whole experience of working with this deck, because it's just so potent, the way that the colors work with the messages and the meanings, and really just put you in that space of magical, you know, alchemy, really. Like, this Princess of Cups is so... something about the movement here. It's kinesthetic. Where we just feel like the movement itself creates this magic. And you know, her dress almost looks like a shell or something. It's so interesting to look at the shapes and colors and figures that this deck brings. And always, you know, this deck just hits me on a deeper and more important kind of layer. It really, you know, brings out those messages that are hiding, that I would otherwise miss or not take the time to really uncover. And of course, that beautiful death card. It reminds me of a Salvador Dali type of painting, doesn't it? Very quiet, introspective, wise deck for the holidays, for that kind of ancestral energy as well. But that still voice that you need when everything is so loud and difficult. So these are the decks that I'm working with this December. It's going to be a very busy month, a lot going on, so I may not work with these decks, you know, all as much as I would like. I'll probably end up mixing some, and I am using multiple decks for the December deck challenge at Lionhearts on Instagram, so that's one way I'll be able to kind of make sure I'm taking some time to work with these decks. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know kind of, you know, what you're working with, if there's any of these decks that are on your rotation for December, and just what you are doing for your own practice. And please consider liking and subscribing to the channel if you have not done so, and I will talk with you all very, very soon.